Hey, boys and girls, we're back with Chapter 7 of Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson Story. Chapter 7 is entitled ROTC and College Choices. Ben watched Colonel Sharper striding down the hall of his high school one day during 10th grade. Sharper had a 3-diamond cluster on each shoulder, and row after row of medals, plus a host of ribbons and even some fancy ropes. It struck Ben that if he joined the ROTC, that stands for the Reserve Officers Training Corps, he could wear a snazzy uniform like that to school, and then he would not have to endure the humiliation of wearing outdated clothing. Colonel Sharper, like Ben's brother Curtis, was a senior in high school. Curtis had risen to the rank of captain in ROTC, served as the school's company commander. But Sharper was a colonel, and one of the only 3 such officers in all the high schools in Detroit, Michigan. Students could join ROTC starting the first semester of 10th grade, and had 6 semesters of high school to earn promotions and rise up through the ranks. But Ben was already halfway through 10th grade. If he enrolled in ROTC now, he would be 1 semester behind his classmates. But even if he never rose to be a colonel, he would still be able to wear an ROTC uniform most days for the remainder of high school. So Ben signed up. The clothes may have been what drew him to ROTC, but Ben quickly discovered that he enjoyed everything about the program. He liked military science and strategy and disassembling and assembling rifles. He liked target practice and drill instruction. By the end of his first semester in ROTC, he was promoted, not to private first class, or even to corporal, but straight to staff sergeant. Within another few weeks, he was promoted to sergeant first class and then to master sergeant. I have a picture in the book of Ben when he was in ROTC in high school. Can you see that picture? Let me see if I can point out which one was Ben. I think that he is the short one right there. That, when he was promoted to Master Sergeant, that was when Sergeant Hunt, a real sergeant in the real Army, challenged Ben to take over the 5th period ROTC class. They were an unruly bunch of students who were notoriously disruptive, uncooperative, and exasperating. Sergeant Hunt promised Ben that if he could shape up that 5th period class, he would promote Ben to 2nd lieutenant by the end of his 2nd semester in ROTC. If Ben managed that, he would pass most of the cadets who had started a semester ahead of him. But Ben also knew that he could fail and be humiliated. Ben did the brave thing. He accepted the sergeant's challenge. Ben quickly discovered that the guys in that 5th-hour class had pride. So Ben worked them hard on drilling and on their knowledge of rifles, and he challenged them to become the top ROTC class in the school by the semester's end. And they did. Ben received his promotion. He took an ROTC exam and posted the highest score in the city, and after an interview with the ROTC board, was promoted to the rank of lieutenant colonel. By the end of his junior year of high school, Ben was not only a colonel, but also the city executive officer over all the high school ROTC programs in the Detroit, Michigan public school system. As the ROTC city executive officer, Ben got to meet General William Westmoreland. He had dinner with a Congressional Medal of Honor award winners and marched at the head of a Memorial Day parade and was offered a full scholarship at West Point. His ROTC experience looked good on Ben's application, and it bolstered his confidence that he could do well. But he knew that he would not go to West Point and join the military. He did not want anything to interfere with his long-time dream of becoming a physician. While participating in ROTC, Ben also spent the last 2 years of high school making up for his 1 year of goofing off. He studied so hard in every subject that by the time he graduated, he had climbed back up to be ranked third academically in his senior class. That class standing, combined with a high score on the Scholastic Aptitude Test, the SAT, meant Ben could go almost anywhere he wanted to go to college. In addition to the scholarship offer from West Point, the University of Michigan pursued him, but Ben wanted to attend a school farther from home. Representatives came from many schools to meet with Ben, trying to persuade him to apply to their schools. By the spring of his senior year of high school, he had narrowed the decision down to 2 colleges, Harvard or Yale. And Ben didn't know how to decide between them. Clearly, either one could give him a good foundation for medical school, and both of them were offering substantial scholarships. Then one Sunday afternoon, Ben was watching one of his favorite television shows, the General Electric College Bowl, a quiz show where teams from different colleges competed against each other, answering questions about a variety of subjects. And the 2 teams competing that day were Harvard and Yale. Ben was very impressed to see the Yale students blow away Harvard by a score of 510 to 35. Ben's decision was instantly sealed. Forget Harvard. Yale it would be. During the summers, starting in high school, Ben worked to save money for his college expenses. The summer between his junior and senior years of high school, he worked in a biology lab at Wayne State University. The summer after he graduated from high school, Ben wore a shirt and tie to work in the payroll office of Ford Motor Company. Whatever job he had, Ben worked as hard as he could. When he walked onto the Yale campus in the fall of 1969, he expected to impress everyone. After all, he had done great in high school, had scored high on the SAT. Months of listening to college recruiter telling him how much they wanted him to come to their school had left Ben thinking, he's pretty special. Yale, he thought, is lucky I decided to come here. He had been on campus only a week when he began to realize that he wasn't the only bright student at Yale. Ben sat at a table in the dining hall with some fellow freshmen when they began comparing SAT scores. He quickly discovered that everyone at that table had scored higher than he had. That was his first clue that college would be a big step up from high school. Perhaps that should have scared Ben into working harder at his studies. But it didn't. He had always been able to read and go to classes and not really study until right before a test. And then he would cram for a day or two and make good grades. But that familiar strategy did not work well for classes at Yale. And that's the end of Chapter 7, In Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson Story. Thank you, boys and girls.